everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Creating Tomorrow's Native Leaders, a spotlight on ANA iLead grantees. We have a few notes for you before we begin today's presentation. First, this webinar is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on our website, www.anaeastern.org. You can expect it to be published there in about 2 weeks' time. Second, a downloadable version of today's PowerPoint is available for all attendees and can be found under the Handout section of your control panel. Expand your control panel simply by clicking the orange arrow at the top of the Grab tab. This handout will also be posted to our website and will be found on our resources page. Hosting today's presentation is the Eastern Region Training and Technical Assistance Center, a resource of the Administration for Native Americans. My name is Marissa Carmi, and I am the Outreach and Technology Specialist for the Eastern Region. I've been in this role for about 4 years, and I'm from the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin. So we're very excited to be bringing you today's presentation, which is all about ANA's newest and very popular funding opportunity, affectionately referred to as iLead. We'll begin today by reviewing the iLead grant, discussing how and why it is so special to ANA and to our Native communities. Then, we are very fortunate in having 2 current iLead grantees here with us who will explain how they're implementing iLead projects in their respective communities. And finally, we'll end with a question and answer session where you are welcome to ask about any points that come up today or to request a little more information from our grantees. If you do come up with questions during the course of the presentation, feel free to type them into the questions box on your control panel. We'll have them ready for our presenters at the presentation's end. So let's go ahead and get started. The full and proper name of the iLead grant is the Native Youth Initiative for Leadership, Empowerment, and Development. It falls within ANA's Social and Economic Development Strategies, or SEDS, program area. Some of you might be familiar with SEDS. You'll know that it's established upon 4 principal components: governance, economic development, strengthening families, and social development. These 4 principles still undergird the iLead grant. The only difference is simply that iLead projects are, of course, youth-focused. The iLead grant first opened for competition in 2016 and was born out of ANA's commitment to supporting Native youth, a commitment that was prioritized under ANA's previous commissioner, Lillian Sparks Robinson, and today ANA is still committed to and emphasizes supporting Native youth under its current acting commissioner, Stacey Ecafee. So the concept driving the iLead grant is further refined in the program purpose section of the iLead funding opportunity announcement. There you will read that supporting Native youth for ANA means emphasizing Native youth resiliency. So to achieve this goal, iLead projects should align with one of 4 domains, each reflecting those 4 principal components of the SEDS program area mentioned earlier. The first domain is Native youth leading, defined as empowering Native youth and fostering leadership tied to governance. The second domain is Native youth connecting, which covers building positive identity, community connection, and social emotional health, and is tied to strengthening families and social development. Native youth learning is supporting educational success tied to social development. And finally, Native youth working is defined as supporting workforce readiness tied to economic development. The iLead funding opportunity notes that any of these domains should be combined with an emphasis on culture and promotion of the role of supportive adults. We have attached the 2018 iLead funding opportunity announcement as a handout, so you may review on your own the iLead program purpose, as well as the criteria that iLead projects should meet. Please note, ANA's 2018 funding competition is closed, and this handout is for reference only. If you're interested, however, in one day applying for an iLead grant, we think that it is helpful to at least start familiarizing yourself with the expectations for iLead projects. Again, for any of you who are late in joining us, the presentation handouts are available for download under the handout section of your control panel. So a little bit of background about current iLead grantees before I introduce the 2 grantees we have with us today. There are currently 13 iLead grantees spread out across the United States and its territories. As these maps show you, there is 1 grantee in American Samoa 3 in Alaska, 8 in the continental United States, and 1 in Hawaii. The blue markers indicate the locations of those grantees with us today: Portland, Oregon, and Hana, Hawaii. As a note, we've invited these grantees here to spotlight the incredible work they're doing and to provide an example of what can be done under the iLead grant. While you can certainly think of both of them as models, the beauty of the iLead grant and ANA's funding more generally is that projects can and should be designed to reflect your own unique community and to meet its particular needs. As you'll see today, although funded under the same grant, these organizations have designed 2 different and very unique projects. And with that, I'll introduce our presenters from Portland. With us today from the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board are Project Director Stephanie Craig Rushing and Youth Engagement Coordinator, Tana Atchley. Dr. Stephanie Craig Rushing, PhD, focuses on designing and evaluating interventions to improve adolescent health, including We Are Native, a multimedia health resource that empowers Native teens to get actively involved in their health and well-being. Tana Atchley is a citizen of the Klamath tribes and is of Modoc, Paiute, and Karuk descent. As a youth engagement coordinator, she coordinates the NPA-IHB youth delegates and oversees leadership training programs for tribal youth interested in health careers. So Stephanie and Tana, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, this is Stephanie. I'll kick us off and then I'll hand it over to Tana about halfway through our presentation. But first off, thanks for inviting us to join the call today and share a little bit about what we do at the Health Board. I am Stephanie and I have worked at the Health Board for 16 years on adolescent health promotion projects, and we are a tribal nonprofit organization that works for the 43 tribes in Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, really around health promotion and trying to support teens and young adults making healthy decisions. So we aligned our iLead grant with a project we've been running, which is kind of a national multimedia health resource for Native teens and young adults, which we call We Are Native. Next slide. So like other grantees, our iLead goals are to improve resilience and life skills. We aligned our project with the Native Youth Leading and the Native Youth Learning domains. And we have 2 kind of major components of the project. One, to create a year-long training program for youth delegates and We Are Native Youth Ambassadors. And the second component is to build an interactive text mentorship service for Native youth who are interested in health professions. And we as an organization really kind of focus on health promotion and disease prevention, and identified a need for young people coming up into health professions and wanted to equip those teens and young adults with skills to join the public health workforce. Next slide, please. So much of our work is guided by teens and young adults themselves. We try to match our services to what they say they are doing to access health information. And so periodically we survey teens and young adults. This was from a 2016 survey of over 675 Native teens from across the country who told us where they go to get health information. And not surprisingly, they go to social networking sites and the internet and their parents. And they're not getting a whole heck of a lot of health information from schools or curricula. And knowing where teens and young adults are online, we try to match our programs to reach teens and young adults in a way that would feel familiar and comfortable to them meeting their learning needs. Next slide, please. We also ask teens and young adults about what they see on the internet and what kind of technologies they're using on a daily basis, whether they're visiting Facebook or Instagram, Snapchat. Of course, this changes quickly. Technology landscapes are always moving, but we try to use the social media channels that young people are on to promote health education and healthy decision making. We also try to keep an eye on trends in terms of references to drug and alcohol use or violence on social media, and equip young people to respond, and also create a healthy kind of social media landscape for teens and young adults by promoting young people who are doing great things in Indian country, and young people who are supporting each other. So that's kind of a tool that we use to promote healthy decision making. We get about 31,000 views to our health education materials per week. So we have a pretty wide reach across Indian country by teens and young adults accessing health information. Next slide. So our We Are Native Youth Ambassadors are kind of the heart and soul of the work that we do. We have over 100 Native youth from across Indian country who have applied for a youth delegate or youth ambassador position, and we support their work in their communities, kind of representing We Are Native and educating their peers around health topics, linking them to opportunities for health information and local activism around health topics. Next slide. But we traditionally didn't have a very strong or any training program for those teens. We kind of had a Facebook group that kids would join and we'd share information with them, but we didn't have a specific training plan. So our ILE grant is giving us the opportunity to build out a very specific training plan with skills and knowledge around living a balanced and healthy life, focusing on indigenous leadership styles, and helping young people become experts on the We Are Native website and its resources, and engage them in service learning opportunities in their community. And we're going to do this over the course of the next year by offering trainings that are both virtual and in person for that cohort of ambassadors, and building out some fun opportunities to receive badges for completing particular training elements, and hopefully certificates, earning certificates at the end, and things that they can include on their resume for school. Next slide. We've had these youth ambassadors for a while, so our participation has really increased over the years. And we also offer community service mini grants to participants. So anyone can go online to the We Are Native website and apply for $475 to do a community service project. That's open to all Native youth across the United States. And we're just really focusing right now on building up that training plan, and our application is open for participants. So if you know of any Native youth who want to participate in our Youth Ambassador program this next year, please encourage them to check out the website and apply. Next slide, please. This is a little information about our application criteria. If you also want to kind of recruit participants, you can let them know they can text the word represent to the short code 97779, and that will connect them to the application as well. It's one page, it's very brief, everyone gets accepted, and then we will enroll them into the training, iLead training program kicking off in June. So that is information about our ambassadors. Next slide, please. And I will pass it over to Hana.
Hello, I'm going to talk a little bit about our Tribal Youth Delegate program, and you can see we have a similar process for youth who are interested in applying for that program. They can text Delegate to 97779 to get information to the application. But this is a program that came out directly out of our health board. We have a youth committee who are delegates who represent the 43 tribes in Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. And they were very interested in looking at ways to engage tribal youth in learning more about careers in the health profession and learning how policy is created and implemented. Next slide, please. So here's a little blurb in terms of our program description and what the Youth Delegate program is all about. This is a brand new program, so we're just starting our recruitment phase right now. The Youth Delegates we're going to be recruiting around 15 tribal youth between the ages of 14 and 24, and they will be having an opportunity to come together both in person and participate in virtual trainings throughout the year, where they will explore health careers and looking at governance structures and how policy is created, and giving them an opportunity to have their voice represented and to speak directly to our delegates to make sure that that youth voice is represented as policy decisions are being made. Next slide, please. And then this is just information on the application criteria and the recruitment process. Because the youth delegates are going to be representing one of the member tribes from the health board, it is restricted to youth from Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, and that we would prefer that they have some sort of an interest in exploring a career in the health field, and that they are prepared to take on a leadership role. But this is a good opportunity for youth to expand their competencies in public speaking and organizing within their community. Next slide, please. The next program that we are starting is a collaboration between the Oregon Health and Science University and the We Are Healers program. And it is an opportunity to really kind of take it to the next level for youth to engage with a mentor and learn about internship opportunities. We'll go to the next slide. So We Are Healers is really created to enhance workforce readiness. And this is kind of unique because it's a text mentoring program. So we found that a lot of our youth are feeling a little bit more comfortable texting professionals and mentors as opposed to being in that formal space where they're meeting face-to-face. So this is kind of an opportunity for them to just initiate that relationship, and we'll have prompts for them to ask questions of their mentor, and then the mentors will also have prompts to ask the mentees questions about their educational path or what areas they're interested in, and be able to provide them with information to help them with that. They'll also be getting information on how to do informational interviews and job shadowing and internships, as well as how to create a polished resume and get feedback from their mentor. Next slide. So the We Are Healers Mentees program is open to youth from around the country. Again, we're looking at youth between the ages of 14 and 24 and who have an interest in health and careers in health and wellness. Right now, we are doing a pilot test. So we'll be working with 5 mentees and 5 mentors from May to June, and we'll be working out any bugs with the text prompts and things like that. But we anticipate adding more and more sections of youth as we go through. And then that one, if people are interested in getting on that, being connected to that program, you would text HEALER to 97779. Next slide. And then this is just our contact information as well as the prompts to text to the 97779 for each program. And we will be available for questions at the end of the webinar. Next slide. And then that's just a photo of some of our youth. Thanks.
All right, thanks so much, Stephanie and Tana. As Tana said, they will be with us again at the end of the presentation for a Q&A period. And if you didn't have a chance to copy down their contact information, it is again included in the handout available under the handout section of your control panel. And with that, we'll make our way on to our next presenter. Joining us bright and early from Hana, Hawaii is Kawila Hanchett, Project Director at Makahanaka Ike. Kawila grew up in 2 rural Hawaiian communities, Molokai and Hana, East Maui, where families still cling to a traditional way of life based on shared cultural values. She has had the privilege of learning from many revered kumu, or teachers, and kapuna, elders. She has been working with Native Hawaiian youth for the past 17 years in various capacities and currently serves as the Development Director for Makahanaka Ike. Kawila, we'll hand the controls over to you. Attendees or visuals might briefly cut out as Kawila's presentation loads on your screen.
Velina me ke aloha e nā hoa malama o pio, malama aina, malama kaya ulu, malama ka honua nei. Aloha everyone. This is Kawila Hanchett from Hana, Hawaii. And I'm really excited to share with you about our iLead project. And as my papa taught me, olelo vale vaha, to speak from the heart. And today is really about sharing our stories and sharing about how our youth are becoming the caretakers of our community. In traditional Hawaii, youth played a vital role in the well-being of their families and community. They were the strong backs upon which our community was built. Over time, as Hawaii faced many of the kinds of changes other indigenous peoples faced, the role of our youth changed as well. They lost their purpose. And as a result, our Native youth are struggling. And so our iLead project is really about restoring our youth to their rightful role as caretakers of our culture and caretakers of our elders and caretakers of our community. We see our youth as our greatest asset and the hope for our future. Our project is titled Ho'i'a Haloa, and the pico or focal point of our project is really around Haloa, and I'll share that story with you in a minute. Ho'i means to return, and so we are returning to the ancestral wisdom of our kupuna as represented in our relationship with Haloa. Haloa, the mo'olelo of Haloa is that the deities Wakea, Sky Father, and Ho'ohoku Kalani, she who births stars, gave birth to a child that was stillborn. This child was buried in the earth, and from the burial site grew the first kalo plant, Haloa Nakalau Kapalili. Their second child was the first Hawaiian man. And so kalo is honored as the elder sibling of the Hawaiian people. Kalo is our staple food, and so kalo nourishes us physically and spiritually. And when we are connected to haloa or to kalo, we are healthy and strong and happy people. I wanted to take you on a little huaka'i to our town, for those of you who have never been, to Hana, which is located in East Maui in Hawaii. Hana is a very rural, small Hawaiian village. And there's about 1,200 residents. 68% of our population is Native Hawaiian. More than 80% of our school population is Native Hawaiian. Hana is geographically isolated. So there's an infamous road to Hana. They have t-shirts that say, "I survived the road to Hana." It's 2 hours of a lot of windy turns and cliffs, and the road is subject to closure frequently if there's storms or landslides. So it takes a lot even just to get to our community. Hana is also honored and celebrated throughout Hawaii as a kipuka, a cultural oasis of old Hawaii, of the ways of life that our ancestors enjoyed. And so here's a welcome sign. Welcome to Hana, the heart of old Hawaii. Hana's natural beauty is amazing. We have, and it's also a popular tourist destination, so we have a lot of people coming in and out and passing through our community. We're known for our beautiful beaches, stunning waterfalls, and people passing through won't see this, but Hana still retains vestiges of the old ways of life. And pictured here is one of the youth in our program. He's a fisherman, like many of our young people. They are fishermen, farmers, planters. A lot of our families are on the lower side of the economic scale, and they really rely on subsistence to help supplement and put food on the table. And so our youth still hold on to that role of being providers for their families. We've also been a beacon of light for the renaissance and rejuvenation of cultural practices. So pictured here, I don't know if you can see the man in the red shirt is Uncle Francis Sinensi, and he's credited with helping to bring back the art form of traditional hale building and hula as well. And so our young people face many challenges, and they have a lot of risk factors that they have to deal with. And they also have a very strong, tight-knit community, deeply rooted in our cultural values as protective factors. Makahana Ka'ike, the organization that I work for, it's come from Olelo No'eo. Makahana Ka'ike means that in doing, one learns. And our project and our program is all about hands-on. And we believe that one of the ways knowledge is transmitted is through our hands. And when our hands are working, that's when our youth learn best. Our project started in 2000 when our founder, Rick Rutiz, who was a math teacher and a carpenter, watched his students, again, mainly Native Hawaiian students, failing in the classroom. He hired these same students to work with him after school on the job, and they were superstars. And he realized that it wasn't that they were failing, it's that the system was failing them. And Makahana Ka'ike was born out of the desire to create opportunities for our Native youth to thrive. We started first as a building program. We hired our youth, so they were paid to come and work and learn at the same time. And they started building first classrooms on campus for the first 5 years. And one day, one of the students had their house burned down, and the next day it's absolute silence because our community is very tight. And so there was this heaviness in the air the next day. And one of the students said, hey, we can build them a new house. And they did. They mobilized, they got the materials donated, and they built that family a new home within 3 weeks. That started the community aspect of our building program. And so to date, our youth have built 200 structures. They build ramps for elders who have lost mobility. They build buildings for nonprofits. They build off-grid classrooms for our school. Our most recent project they just completed is a visitor center for Kahanu Garden, one of our natural botanical gardens. They learn all kinds of skills: masonry, electrical, plumbing, alternative energy, from start to finish, everything that you need to know to create a structure. They also learn traditional indigenous building skills, heavy machinery operation. In 2010, we launched our community farm and also started an agricultural training program for our youth. And again, it's all about how our youth can meet our community's needs. And when they meet the needs of the community, we simultaneously meet their needs to have purpose. And so our community farm is 10 acres. We grow organic food twice a week. Community can come and work and take home fresh, healthy, organic food. Pictured here is some of our youth who are learning, going through our agricultural training program. And the farm is a very happy place. That kind of brought us to the beginnings of this iLead project. Kaho'omaka, our beginnings, has its root in Ku'i Club. So 2 years ago, we tried out this trial activity of having kids come in and pound poi on traditional boards and stones, and it was a hit. We realized that there was a hunger and a longing for these cultural practices among our youth. And so we started gathering wood, carving boards and stones, and really returning to that cultural root with haloa or our kalo. Our iLead project's goal is to increase the percentage of Kanaka Maoli youth that experience high self-efficacy through community-based leadership skills development and the implementation of culturally defined mastery. We have 3 core objectives. The first is to increase cultural knowledge and skills in our youth. And we know that when we increase cultural knowledge and skills, that we are building the next generation of cultural practitioners and that our culture will be perpetuated into the future. Our second objective is to build leadership capacity. And part of that is having our youth believe and understand that they are our leaders. Many of these youth prior to entering the project have a very different self-perception, and the community perceives them very differently. Sometimes they're seen as troublemakers or failures. Good for nothing is a phrase they might often hear. And when they start to build homes for elders, grow food for community, when they start to do all of these things, they really become the superheroes in our community, and the communities, their families, everyone's perceptions of them change. And as a result, their own self-perception changes. And so in the second photo, one youth is teaching another youth how to cut the kalo to create a huli, which is how you start and plant the next round of kalo. Self-efficacy is really critical to our program, and we see self-efficacy as the baseline upon which, the foundation upon which our youth can build cultural skills and leadership. In addition to self-efficacy, we're also building collective efficacy. So our youth belief in their collective ability to impact real change in their community and in their lives. We're so fortunate to have still with us some very knowledgeable elders. One of the primary elders that we work with on this project is Uncle Ed Went and his wife, Auntie Mahelani Went. Uncle Ed is a taro farmer in Wailua Nui, which is about an hour away from where our school is, but it is located within our greater Hana area. And I'll share a little bit more about his story when we get to our lo'i work. He's a lineal descendant of the area, and so Uncle Ed practices taro farming on ancestral lands in Wailua Nui. And our youth are very, very fortunate to be able to work with him and learn from him. Reestablishing the intergenerational transmission of knowledge and skills is very, very critical to Hana and Hawaii. Not only, if these skills are not passed down and this knowledge is not passed down, then we have no hope for our future. And so that is part of what our project does, is we establish relationships with our elders so that our youth can learn from them. Malama Haloa is returning to our role as caretakers of Haloa or taro. As I previously mentioned, Haloa is our elder sibling, and so when we care for Haloa, Haloa in turn nourishes us. And we have the opportunity to Malama Haloa at a really special site, Wailua Nui, as I mentioned earlier, the ancestral lo'i kalo of Uncle Ed Went. The story of Wailua Nui is very powerful. Like many other indigenous peoples, we had problems with water rights. And so the area you see here was deprived of water. Water was diverted from our streams to feed sugar by big business, to feed sugar on the other side of the island. And as a result, there was insufficient water to grow kalo. After a decades-long legal battle, the farmers of this area finally got water restored to 8 of the streams that directly feed our lo'i. They were very saddened when they looked around after the victory and realized that all of the young farmers had been forced to leave, and there was nobody to do the hard work of reopening the lo'i. This is where our project stepped in and just started to show up and help clear you can see on the picture, some of those orange flowers are African tulips, very invasive, and they started to clear the invasives and reopen the lo'i. And this is one of our primary sites where our youth go to train with Uncle and to help Malama Haloa. Another part of our project is protecting the cultural diversity of taro, and so our youth are helping to maintain about 80 different varieties and cultivars of kalo. Ku'iai is the art of pounding poi, and this is a traditional poi pounder. In old Hawaii, ku'iai or pounding of poi was a daily activity, and poi was always on the table as a staple food. This is a photo of 2 of our kane, our young men, pounding poi. We are trying to get this practice back as a daily practice in the home, and part of how we're starting that is offering weekly opportunities for our youth to pound poi on traditional boards and stones on campus at our school site and off campus. We also have other people coming and joining us for these sessions, and our youth then become the mentors. And it's when you teach something that you really, really solidify your own learning. Kalai is the carving. So in Hawaiian practices, it's really from the start to the finish. So if we want to be pounding poi, we also have to learn and teach our youth how to carve the boards and stones, and not just how to carve the boards and stones, but how to harvest the stones, all of the cultural protocols and chants and intentions that go along with harvesting and selecting the stones, harvesting the wood. They also learn how to mill the wood and how to carve the boards and stones. And this has been a really beautiful opportunity for our youth to give back to the community. So the boards and stones that they've created are then used in our outreach portion, which we'll cover in just a minute. So one of the core ideas with our approach is that it's not what we do for our youth, but it's what our youth can do for our community that will make the biggest difference. And so part of what we're able to do is have our younger keiki, our children, come in and pound kalo, and our youth, our elder, our teenagers, and OPO mentor the younger youth during this process. And I wish everyone could just come to Hana and see it, because it is really something to behold. For many families, the art of pounding poi has been lost, but they still have memories of it. Their grandparents or their great-grandparents still practice the pounding of poi. And so to see another generation coming up and they're so confident as they ku'iai is really a very moving and touching sight. Again, pictured here is a visitor and one of our youth, Kia'i, helping to teach her how to ku'iai. Kia'i recently found his great-grandfather's poi board that was buried under the house, and he dusted it off and refurbished it, and they are once again pounding poi on it. The foundation of well-being for our youth is also their families, and so we have families coming in and learning together alongside their youth. And again, we're a very small community, and so the impact is really exponential. We have multiple places where we are engaging with the youth and their family members. In addition to our work at the school, we also have our youth take our boards and stones out into the community and pound ku'iai with community members at events, festivals, or other community events. In addition to our own island, we also take them out. So pictured here is an annual ku'i at the Capitol. So this is our Capitol building, and you can see all of our men in their malo and all of the papa and ku'iai out. And they didn't tell me this, but I heard through the grapevine, somebody said, wow, your youth were running the show. That's awesome. So being able to make connections outside of our community with the greater Hawaii and the larger movements that are happening statewide to reclaim our ancestral practices and reclaim our connection to Haloa. One of the critical questions that we've been answering is, how do we define success and how do we measure success in a way that's relevant to us? And many of the existing tools and methodologies are dissonant with our cultural values and practices. And so we've been working with our youth to develop a cultural-based mastery assessment rubric and trying to find a way that is familiar to us. And so within Hawaiian culture, like I'm sure many indigenous cultures, the idea of mastery is inherent. And so a child would start from a young age the process of growing in knowledge and growing in skills. And what do we define those core values and core skills as, and how do we measure that progression? And so this is our draft of our rubric. It is included in the handout. If you look along the sides, you'll see that middle line of silver, ha'a, ma'a, pa'a, and la'a. And that is our cultural framework for how we define mastery. Ha'a is that beginning stage when you're just a novice, and it's a lot about observation. Ma'a is when you're starting to become familiar and accustomed and kind of getting the hang of it. Pa'a means that it's solid, firm, fixed. You embody that value or that practice. And la'a is really, it means consecrated. It's taking it to the next level. And for us, that is when you not just take the knowledge and hold it within, but you spread it, you share it, you teach it, and you help others to also embrace that knowledge. Okay. So mahalo nui for this opportunity to share. I think we will have questions and answers later if anyone has questions about our project. Aloha.
Thank you, Kawila. So before our Q&A begins, I have a quick announcement. If you are attending this webinar because you are interested in applying for an iLead grant, or perhaps after hearing from our grantees today, you are inspired to apply for one, now is a great time to start thinking about your project design. In the coming weeks, all regional technical assistance centers will begin announcing the dates for their project planning and development training sessions. With the regional centers spread across the United States and its territories, ANA hopes to bring one of these free trainings as close to you as possible. At these trainings, you will learn how to work with community and key partners to identify and document specific community problems that stand in the way of meeting community goals. You will create a project work plan to address those problems and attain community goals, learn how to develop measurable outcomes and impacts to the community, and finally, determine the level of resources and funding needed to implement your project. These trainings are truly designed so that you hit the ground running when writing your project proposal. Again, these are held by all regional training and technical assistance centers. Training schedules for each of these regions will be posted on their websites and delivered through their listservs, which you can sign up for at each region's respective website. And now we'll move on to the question and answer session. So I am not seeing any questions. Well, I'll go ahead. If any come up in the meantime, I'm going to just jump ahead to one final quick announcement. We do have an upcoming webinar. Our counterpart in the Western region will be hosting a webinar on Thursday, April 26th on community planning and preparedness. So again, if today's presentation has inspired you to apply for an iLead grant in 2019, this upcoming webinar will be quite helpful to you, as it will discuss the strategies to follow to have a firm foundation in community-based planning, which is key to a well-developed project and competitive grant application. Registration for that webinar can be found on our website, www.anaeastern.org, as well as on ANA's website at www.acf.hhs.gov/ANA/events. And so I think I am seeing
there are some questions now. We have one from, there is a question from Oklahoma, and they were curious that the funding is available in Oklahoma. And yes, it is. It is a nationwide competition open to eligible tribes and Native organizations in the United States, as well as Guam, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, and American Samoa. And the next competition will be next year. The second question, is there any opportunity to have a youth delegation from the mainland come and have a cultural cross-training with Hana? And that question is obviously for Kawila.
Absolutely. We have an open door policy, and we welcome any group or individual that would like to come and check out our programs. And please share my email. I'm happy to help coordinate. That would be very meaningful for our youth.
We have a question. Thanks, Kawila. Sorry. We have a question. Can you tell us how many applications were received in 2017 versus how many awards were made? We don't have. Dawn, do you have that information available?
Not at the tip of my right now, but I'll dig around on my computer and I'll come back.
Thank you. The competition just closed, and the iLead funding opportunity announcement indicated that they were anticipating awarding 7 awards for this competition. And this, as Marissa said at the beginning, this is an extremely popular competition. I believe there was a number of applications that were just received. However, ANA has to go through and look at them to see which ones will actually, any eligibility factors or any kind of screen outs are done, and then we should have the number of the actual applicants. But we do have that information, and we'll see if we can get it to you shortly, or we can email it to you. And there was another question, are these awards still up to 4 years of funding? Actually not. Now they are 3-year projects. You can do a maximum of 3 years on for iLead projects.
And Candy, I have the numbers from last year. In 2017, there were 83 iLead applications read and scored. That doesn't include the ones that were submitted but screened out. So these were the ones that were actually read and scored, and there were 8 awards last year.
Great, thanks, Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
So it is starting to really pick up. It came out in 2016. There was a lot of we did not anticipate that there would be as much interest in this competition as there was. And it's still something that is on a lot of people's radars. So if you're thinking about an iLead project, I would highly recommend that you maybe look at that funding opportunity announcement and start working on crafting your project and getting your youth involved in helping you craft the project. Marissa, I believe that is it for our questions.
Okay. Again, we would send out a sincere thanks to our presenters today, Stephanie, Tana, and Kawila. We truly appreciate all of you taking the time out of your schedules to share your good work with us. We will include your contact information is included with the handout. I think, Kawila, if yours is not, we can put it up. I can include it in the handout that goes up on our website. Just go ahead and update it to have your contact info in there. So if anybody has any questions or anything for you, they can find it there. And so to our attendees, we hope you found this presentation informative and at the least inspiring. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.